The stars shimmered with deceptive calm, a blanket of light draped over a galaxy bracing for war. From the dark edge of Earth's orbit, the Citadel Aegis stood sentinel, an armored station with its eyes forever fixed on the abyss. Inside, the hum machinery mingled with tense breath and static whispers. Commander Alara Voss stood at the central console, eyes narrowed, the glow from the monitors casting sharp shadows across the scar on her cheek. Her uniform was tight against her frame, not out of vanity but function, built for survival in zero-G breaches and firestorms. Her short hair was matted with sweat, but her voice, when it came, was clear as obsidian. "This is Commander Alara Voss of the Terran Coalition," she began, staring directly into the recording lens. "To those watching, if there's anyone left to listen, know this. You'll regret this war." The recording ended there, a hard cut, not dramatic flair, but strategy. Let the silence say what words couldn't. 20 hours earlier, Earth had still believed peace was within reach. The Council Hall in Geneva buzzed with cautious hope as diplomats from the Terran Coalition and the alien Sindari Dominion prepared to sign what would have been history's most improbable ceasefire. 2 decades of Cold War and veiled threats had frayed both sides. But hope, as always, had a short half-life. Alara hadn't attended. She was stationed in orbit, where she belonged, close to the pulse of reality. She had seen enough of the Sindari to understand them. Machines wrapped in skin, emotions synthesized rather than felt. The Dominion didn't sue for peace. It calculated delay. The idea of coexistence was a comfort humans clung to. Alara didn't believe in comfort anymore. It was during her daily system sweep that the transmission came in, raw, unencrypted, panicked. A single word pierced the background noise. Detonation. The Geneva feed went dead moments later. Surveillance drones showed a white flash. The Council Hall and the Sindari delegation with it vanished beneath a rising fireball. In the command center, alarm screeched. Across the station, personnel snapped into action. Lieutenant Bren Sato, her comms officer, sprinted to her side, eyes wide. "Geneva's gone. It wasn't our strike." Alara's jaw tightened. Of course not. It was theirs. But their own delegation was there. A distraction. They have no loyalty to flesh, not even their own. Her mind raced. The attack didn't cripple just Earth's leadership. It framed humanity as aggressors. The Sindari would move fast, spinning this as a betrayal, justifying full-scale retaliation. It was a perfect, precise pretext. Alara turned the command screen, fingers dancing across it. Satellite data poured in, movement across the outer systems. Sindari warships, already in formation. "Send word to Coalition Command," she ordered. Sato hesitated. "They're not responding. No uplinks. They've jammed us." Alara looked out the observation window, where Earth hung in delicate silence below. So much worth protecting. So much they weren't ready to lose. Yet it was happening, and fast. Her instincts, honed in blood and betrayal, screamed it. She didn't wait for orders. There were none left to come. That night, in her private quarters, she activated the long-range transmission buoy, one of the last channels the Sindari couldn't touch. Her face, still streaked with ash from the fire drill earlier, hovered inches from the lens. "You'll regret this war," she said again. But this time, it wasn't just a threat, it was a promise. She stared for a moment before shutting the feed off. A single sentence calculated for impact. Let the galaxy speculate. Let the Sindari wonder what she knew. Her mind drifted to the past. A mission 6 years prior, during the Pharos uprising. Her squad had been captured, experiments conducted by Sindari biotechnicians. She was the only one who returned. They had called it luck. But Alara knew what she saw, what she endured. The Dominion wasn't an empire. It was a mechanism. War wasn't its failure. It was its design. Back in the command center, Sato was scanning fresh data. "They're here." "How many?" He turned, eyes grim. 17 capital ships. 14 destroyers. No broadcast. No demands. "Of course not," Alara muttered. "They think it's over already." As the crew braced for the coming battle, a quiet beep signaled an unauthorized data stream. A screen lit up with a face, hairless, eyes luminous, skin pale as moonlight. Sindari, but not an official channel. A private link. Ilera Voss. The voice said, modulated yet unmistakably smug. You've changed. Her heart seized. Kaldren. It's been a long time. Though time, as you know, means little to us. You framed us. No, he corrected. We revealed your nature. You burn what you can't control. We simply gave you a match. You sent diplomats to die. They were data constructs, placeholders, disposable. Ilera, clench your fists. This isn't peace. It's extermination. It's cleansing, Kale said softly. You always feared what we are becoming, so we'll become it faster. The screen blinked off before she could respond. She wanted to scream, but rage was a tool, and she wasn't done sharpening it. Lock down the station, she ordered. Power all defense platforms. Full charge. Sato turned. Ilera, we're not ready. We're never ready. Doesn't matter. We fight. Outside the viewport, the first Sindari cruiser emerged from the blackness, engines pulsing with unnatural red light. The war had begun, but Ilera Voss, daughter of Earth, survivor Pharos, and now commander of its last fortress, had already chosen her ground. She would not surrender it. And somewhere beyond that darkness, her warning traveled, through static, through silence, through fear, waiting for someone, anyone, to hear it and remember. You will regret this war. The command deck of Citadel Aegis pulsed with tension. Emergency lights bathed the walls in alternating waves of red and white, as Earth's final bastion prepared for war. Ilera Voss stood at the center, her presence magnetic, unflinching despite the chaos unfolding around her. The holographic battlefield in front of her showed dozens of Sindari vessels moving into high orbit, their vector lines intersecting like the tightening noose of an executioner. Charge rail batteries 1 through 6, she commanded, her voice slicing clean to the din. Patch me into all open frequencies, military, civilian, off-grid, everything. Lieutenant Sato hesitated, blinking through sweat. You're going to speak now? They think we're afraid. Let's give them something else to remember. The lights dimmed as auxiliary power was rerouted. The central terminal word, and a circular emitter flared to life, projecting the standard Union seal. The record light blinked red. Ilera leaned in. To any who can still hear this, this is Commander Ilera Voss of Earth's Orbital Defense Command. We are under siege. The Sindari Dominion has broken the truce and initiated a full-scale offensive under the guise of retaliation. But make no mistake, this was always the plan. If you think surrender buys mercy, you haven't been paying attention. She paused just long enough to let the silence press into the listener. You'll regret this war, she said, the words slow, deliberate, because we're not broken yet, and what we lack in circuitry, we make up for in defiance. The feed cut clean. No dramatic exit. No manufactured tears. Just the truth, sharp and cold and loud enough to echo. The moment the transmission left the beacon, the reaction came. Sindari vessels surged forward, as if her words alone had provoked them. Ilera stepped back in the terminal, eyes narrowing as warning alarms flooded the room. Contact in 20 seconds, Sato reported. Capital ships engaging with primary beams. Shield arrays absorbing, but they're testing us. Let them find out what happens when they push. The Citadel shuddered as the first wave of energy fire raked across its flanks. Plating groaned. Sparks rained from an overhead conduit. Despite everything, Ilera stood steady. To her left, the station's AI interface came online. A blue-white figure shimmered into view, humanoid, genderless, with fractured light for skin and no discernible mouth. It didn't need one. Van online, it said. Encryption protocols engaged. Threat matrix uploaded. Show me targeting solutions, Ilera said. Dozens of red triangles lit up the holomap. Each one a Sindari ship locked on a different quadrant of the station. They're testing our blind spots, she muttered. Incorrect, Vanna replied. They are mapping psychological thresholds, calculating civilian panic potential. Their strategy is sociological. Of course it is, she said bitterly. They want us to break before they fire the kill shot. Illyra paced the deck as secondary hits rocked the station. The defense crew worked with disciplined urgency, but the gap between them and Sindari automation was brutal. Human reflexes could only go so far. Status of Fleet Sigma? She asked. 2 minutes from interception range, Sato said, but if the Sindari close the gap before then. They won't. Illyra turned back toward the observation window. Beyond it, Earth glowed with naive serenity. Cities flickered across the continents like synapses, unaware they were about to be severed. This wasn't just a battle. It was a message. The Sindari hadn't come to conquer. They'd come to prove a point. She wouldn't let them. The floor trembled as a direct hit breached outer plating on Deck 7. Alarms wailed. Emergency lockdowns activated. Illyra didn't flinch. Deploy magneto mines from rear bay, she ordered. Target the flanking destroyers. Sato nodded, hands flying over controls. Mines away. 2, 3 impacts. Confirmed damage. A smirk tugged at the corner of Illyra's mouth. Not victory, just satisfaction. The kind that came with forcing your enemy to recalibrate. Then the station's primary console flickered. Unauthorized access detected. Vanna's projection pulsed with alarm. Infiltration attempt underway. Origin, internal subsystem. Tracing. Before it could finish, the side access door hissed open and a tall figure stepped into the room. The guards raised weapons, but Illyra stopped them with a hand. Commander Rivek, she said coldly. You have something to explain. Rivek's face was calm, almost eerily so. We've lost. You know that. Why sacrifice billions for a delay tactic? You shut down our long-range uplinks. They weren't necessary. The Sindari offered a solution. You refused to see it. Illyra's eyes darkened. You sold us out. I preserved what could be preserved. The Sindari don't need to wipe us out, only to reshape us. We could have survived. No, she said, stepping closer. You surrendered. There's a difference. The room was silent save for the low hum of systems recalibrating. Then, in one fluid motion, Illyra drew her sidearm and fired. Rivek crumpled without a word. For a moment, no one moved. Then Vanta's voice returned, steady and cold. Infiltration terminated. Firewalls reestablished. External feed secure. Sato looked at her, wide-eyed. He was on the council. He was a coward, Illyra replied. The kind who dies quietly. We don't have time for those. More tremors rocked the station, and a massive red shape loomed on display. Sindari Dreadnought, flagship class. Vanta blinked. Identification confirmed. Vessel, Obsidian Voice. Command signature matches Admiral Kaldren. Illyra didn't look surprised. Of course he's here. He's requesting a direct channel. Vanna added. Visual only. Put him on. The screen lit with the pale, sharp-featured face of Kaldren. The synthetic harmony of his voice filled the bridge. Commander Voss. So defiant, so obsolete. You've underestimated us before, she said. Not at all. I've simply watched you cling to the myth of your endurance. It's admirable in a way, but also inefficient. Then why are you still talking? A flicker of amusement ghosted across his expression. Because I want you to understand. This isn't vengeance. It's evolution. He terminated the call. Moments later, every display on the deck went red. The Sindari fleet shifted formation. The attack had begun in earnest. Brace for full assault, Illyra called. All power to frontal shields. Return fire, everything we've got. As the Citadel's weapons lit up the blackness, and Earth sky turned to fire, one thought drove Illyra forward. They were not going down in silence. Not this time. And deep in the stars, her message still traveled, carried on waves of defiance, waiting to ignite a spark. The stars were quiet again, but the silence didn't feel like peace. Illyra Voss stood in the remnants of Citadel Aegis's command deck, its ceiling now half exposed to the black void beyond. The air was thin here, recycled and filtered through backup life support. Sparks flickered from ruptured consoles. Scorch marks laced the walls like claw marks from some invisible predator. Earth hung below, still spinning, still whole, for now. Fleet Sigma had taken heavy losses, for ships reduced to molten fragments. 2 more limped in geosynchronous orbit, hulls barely holding. The Obsidian Voice, once a Sindari symbol of superiority, was now drifting in a decaying trajectory, its systems corrupted by Rhys Mallin's viral ghost. But the Dominion hadn't vanished. They had pulled back, yes, but not in retreat, in recalibration. "They're not gone," Elara said aloud. Vanta flickered beside her. The AI's projection had degraded. Patches of corrupted light blinked in and out. Correct. Surveillance nodes detect hyperspace signatures near Jupiter's orbit. Fleet regrouping pattern consistent with Phase 2 engagement strategies. They'll come back smarter. They always do. A long breath left her lungs. She hated the cold truth in those words, but denying it wouldn't help. Earth had not been spared. It had merely been given a pause. And in that pause, humanity had to decide what came next. She moved slowly across the deck, her body still healing from the neural overload of the Echo 7 interface. Pain lingered in her skull like a low-frequency hum. Sato entered through the far hatch, limping from shrapnel wounds, carrying a data slate. "You should be in Med Bay," she said. He offered a weak grin. "So should you." Elara took the slate and scanned it. Logistics, casualty reports, infrastructure failure grids. All grim. Yet in the corner, a blinking file marked Alpha Vector. Debrief caught her attention. "From Rhys?" she asked. Sato nodded. It uploaded minutes before Echo 7 burned out. Encrypted, but Vanna cracked it. She tapped the file. A projection bloomed above the device. Rhys Mallin's recorded image, flickering with static. His eyes were hollow, like he'd already buried the world he loved. "If you're watching this," he began, "then the Dominion hasn't killed everything yet." He paused, not for drama, but out of exhaustion. "I wasn't enough. I couldn't stop them alone. But I knew the answer wouldn't come from weapons. It had to come from a fracture, from the incompatibility between their design and our chaos. Their perfection is their flaw. Our unpredictability. That's the infection they can't fix." Elara felt something tighten in her chest. Rhys hadn't left behind a strategy. He'd left a mirror, a reminder. "They'll come back, Elara, and they'll adapt. But if you keep showing what they can't calculate, they'll never control us. That's the point. We don't need to win. We just need to stay unbroken." The message ended. Silence returned. Sato said nothing. Elara closed the slate and turned toward the shattered viewport. Earth was beginning its night cycle. Lights bloomed across the continents like veins of defiance. The world was still alive, still stubborn. "I used to think survival meant endurance," she said. "Now I think it means evolution." Sato leaned against the wall, blood seeping through the gauze on his leg. "Then what do we do now?" She considered the question. The Dominion would strike again, perhaps within weeks. Sindari logic would demand retaliation, not out of rage, but calculation. They had seen Earth's resistance. They would now account for it. But they hadn't seen everything. "Not yet. We go dark," she said. "We build where they can't see. We spread off-grid. No more central commands. No more monuments to hit." Sato blinked. "You're talking full decentralization. I'm talking survival on our terms. People won't like it. They'll learn." A soft chime echoed across the ruined deck, an alert from long-range sensors. Vanta brightened slightly. Unidentified signal detected. Deep space band. Not Sindari. Sato frowned. "Another human colony?" "No," Vanna said. "Origin unknown." Repeating phrase detected. Playing sample. A static-laced voice crackled through the speakers. The accent was strained, mechanical, but unmistakably not Sindari. "You regret this war." The words echoed Alara's own, broadcast in her final pre-assault transmission. But this wasn't a recording. This was mimicry, learned, adapted, reinterpreted. Elara stepped forward. "Location?" "Approximately 4 light years. Source appears to be mobile." Sato looked at her. "Another enemy?" "Or a listener," she said softly. Something had heard her. Something that wasn't Sindari and wasn't Earth. She stared at the distant signal, as if it were a thread thrown across the void. She had shouted into the darkness once, expecting silence. Now, something was shouting back. "We traced the signal," she ordered. "Discreetly. Quiet probes only. I want to know what's out there before we make contact." Sato straightened. "And if it's worse than the Sindari? Then we prepare the same way," she said, "with noise, misdirection, and fire. The remnants of Earth's fleet would not survive another war. Not yet, but maybe that didn't matter. Maybe survival wasn't about strength. Maybe it was about the story you told when the stars started listening." Ilera Voss looked out at a galaxy that had finally turned its eyes back on Earth. She didn't feel fear. She felt the weight of inheritance. They had survived the first blow. Now came the long game,